Hi everybody, this is Crystal. So today I'm going to show you how to make this sweater here. I'll give you the measurements here in just a second. It's made with the cables there. You can see the 3 main cables and then some smaller post stitches in between. Now I made this for men's sizes, but women are more than welcome to make it too. A lot of my men's sweaters, women make them too, and they look awesome in them. So just 1 second, I'll put my camera on the stand and I'll go over some measurements with you. Alright, bear with me because I know people like measurements when it comes to clothing, so I'm going to try to get them for you. Now, this is available in 3 sizes, men's sizes: large, extra large, and 2X. This one I made, as you've seen in the picture, is an extra large. That's my husband modeling, and he's about 6 foot tall, in case that helps. Some people always ask me that. Now, from the neckline down, the sweater is 27.5 inches. I do show you how you can make it longer or shorter. And then across, it's approximately 22 inches, which would make it a 44-inch sweater for the sizing. So the large is set at 42 inches. My sizing, extra large would be 44, which is what this one is. And then the 2X would be set at 46. Sleeve length, and I'm going to go ahead and give you that one too. People ask me for these, so I like to go ahead and give them this time. Is 21 inches, and of course I show you where you can make that longer or shorter if you want to also. And gauging, we'll go ahead and do that too. Some people like to gauge their work, especially when it comes to clothing. So 6 rows of double crochet equals 4 inches. And then 12 rows of double crochet across equal 4 inches. So that's the gauge. 12 rows across, and then it was 6 rows up and down, both equal 4 inches. So in case you want to gauge your hook, and maybe you might need a different hook size than mine to equal that. But I do want to mention that this is probably an intermediate pattern with these cables, but beginners are more than welcome to try it. Hopefully I explained it in a way that you can do it. So let's go ahead and get started on this. Okay, I want to give a special thanks to my friends at Lion Brand for providing today's yarn for me. Today I'm using their Landscapes yarn. It is a medium weight 100% acrylic yarn, a number 4. There are 147 yards, so just about 150 yards per skein. The color I'm using is called Sand Dune. Now for the size that I made, the extra large size, I used 10 full skeins. I pretty much played yarn chicken with that. So, and if you're going to use if you're going to make the bigger sizes, you'll need a few extra skeins for those. So, yeah, thanks again to Lion Brand. Also, don't forget to check out lionbrand.com. They got all kinds of cool patterns on there. Lots of nice yarns and everything. So, don't forget to check them out. And then I'm going to be using a size J, which is a 6mm crochet hook. And that is regardless of what size that you make. Okay, as always, I just want to ask you not to forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you look in the right-hand corner of this video, or any of my videos, you'll see a little red subscribe button. If you click on that, you'll automatically be subscribed and you'll never miss any of my videos. Also, I'd really appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up or a like on this video if you enjoy it. Okay, so we got the 3 different sizes. We got large, extra large, and 2X. The chain count is different on each one. So if you want to make it for a large, you want to start out with a chain of 68. If you want to do an extra large, you want to start out with a chain of 72. Now that is the one that I'm doing. And if you want to do a 2X, you want to start out with a chain of 74. And I will put that stuff below in the description box so you can refer back to that. So once you get your chain main, depending on the size that you're doing, it's going to be the same now. For the first row, row 1, we're just going to put 1 double crochet into the 4th stitch from the hook. Now remember, we never count this one that's on our hook. So you count back 4 stitches, and that's where you put your first double crochet. And now I'm going to put 1 double crochet in every stitch for the length of the chain. Just like that. Alright, once you make it to the end of row 1, now if you did the size large and you started with 68, chain 68, you'll have 66 stitches now, and that includes this chain here on the end. He counts as a stitch, so count him. So you'll have 66 now for the large, you'll have 70, which I'm doing for the extra large, and you'll have 74 for the 2X. Now, row 2 is going to be a little different for each size, but it's pretty easy to adjust it. So what we're going to do for row 2 is chain 1 and turn our work. Now, if you're doing the large, you want to put 1 double crochet into the first 11 stitches. That's starting with this very first stitch. So the first 11. Extra large, 1 double crochet into the first 13. And then 2X, 1 double crochet into the first 15. So since I'm doing the extra large, I'm going to put 1 double crochet into the first 13. So you want to make sure you go into this very first stitch. So large is first 11, extra large first 13, 2X first 15. After we get past this, the rest should be pretty similar. Get past these little size differences here. Okay, now once you get your amount of stitches that you need for your size, now the rest is the cables are going to be the same regardless of what size you're doing. So you got your amount of stitches you needed for your size. So now we're going to start. It's the same now for no matter what size you're doing. We're going to work a front post double crochet into the next 2 stitches. So we're going to go ahead and yarn over, and we're going to work around the post of the next stitch like that. See how the post is on your hook? And then we go ahead and do our double crochet. And then we're going to do it again into the next stitch. So right here, yarn over, go around the post of the stitch, double crochet. Now we're going to put 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So we're going to yarn over and just regular double crochet right into the top of the next 3. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Like that. And now we're going to make our first cable. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip 3 stitches, and then we're going to work a front post triple crochet into the next 3. So we're going to yarn over twice, like we're going to do a triple crochet. We're going to skip 3, so skip, 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 and front post triple into the next. So we go around the post of the stitch instead of the top and work our triple crochet. I think it's easier if you fold your work in half and pin it down, and then go ahead and work your triple crochet. So there's one. We want 3 in a row. So we're going to yarn over twice, go around the post of the next one, and do the same thing. Triple crochet. One more time, yarn over twice, go around the post of the next one, and triple crochet. Just like that. So now we're going to back it up, and those 3 stitches that we skipped, we're going to work front post triple crochets around them, starting with this very first one way over here. Now this can get a little bit confusing because you got to kind of look around for your stitches because they get kind of tangled up within each other. But you'll be able to do it. I know you can do it. Yarn over twice like you're going to do your triple crochet. Reach all the way over here to that very first one that you skipped and work around the post of it. It's a little awkward, and do your triple crochet. Just like that. Now I always got to pull my stitches apart to find them. There's the next 2 stitches. So I'm going to do a front post triple around the next one right here. So I'm going to yarn over twice and go around the post of that next one and do my front post triple. And now we have one more left. Dig around and find it. There he is. And now we're going to yarn over twice and front post triple around the post of that last one there. Just like that. Now you can kind of, I always just kind of straighten them out just a bit like that. Now I'm going to go over to the very next stitch. I'm going to actually put a double crochet into the next 3 stitches. Just regular double crochet right into the top of the next 3. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And you did part of your first cable, and like I said, you can kind of straighten them a bit if you want, or you can wait till you're finished and do that, but they'll straighten out a bit. Now we're going to kind of repeat what we've been doing. So I'm going to do a front post double crochet into the next 2 stitches. And then again into the next one. Front post double. That. And I'm going to put 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. Like that. And now we're going to make another cable. So we're going to skip 3 and front post triple crochet into the next 3. So we're going to yarn over twice, skip your 3, skip, 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 front post triple around the next stitch. There's 1, and we need to do that 3 times. So the next one, front post triple. One more time. Like that. And now we're going to back it up and we're going to do front post triples in those 3 that we skipped, starting with this very first one. Front post triples right here. So yarn over twice. Remember, it's kind of awkward, but you'll get the hang of it once you do it a few times. Go around the post of that first one that we skipped and do your front post triple. And then dig around, find your next one. This one right here, front post triple. there's one more in there hanging out somewhere, right there. Yarn over twice, go around the post of it, front post triple. And then we're going to put 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. There's 3. You can always go back and straighten this out, or you can do it later. But they'll relax and straighten out. 1 double crochet, or 1 front post double crochet into the next 2. So we're just kind of repeating again. Front post double. One double crochet into the next 3. And now we are going to work our cable again. This will be our last cable. So we're going to yarn over twice, skip 3, skip, 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 front post triple around the next. So there's 1, front post triple again around the next one, because we need 3 in a row. And front post triple around the next. Back it up and front post triple around the 3 that we skipped, starting with this one way back here. And then the next one. And then one more. He's always the one that's hidden the most. There he is. And then we want to go ahead and work 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. Now I'm going to put a front post double crochet into the next 2. Like that. And now, that's all the cables. Now, you want to put a double crochet in each of the remaining stitches. So if you're doing a large, you'll have 11 that remain. If you're doing the extra large like me, you'll have 13 that remain. And if you're doing the 2X, you will have 15 that remain. So 1 double crochet in the remaining stitches. Okay, now remember that chain there that I said counted as a stitch? That's where your last stitch will go. So that'll end row 2, and you'll have the same number of stitches that you had for row 1. So if you're doing the large, you'll have your 66 stitches. If you're doing extra large, you'll have 70 still. And the 2X will have 74. You'll always have that same amount of stitches per size that you're working on. So we're going to go ahead and start row 3 by chaining 1 and turning our work. Now we want to put 1 double crochet in every stitch until we get up here to these first 2 front post double crochets. So you'll have the same number. If you're doing the large, you'll have 11 double crochets here at this part that you'll need to work in. Extra large, you'll have 13. and 2x, you'll have 15. So go ahead and work your correct number of stitches for the size you're working on until you get to those 2 front post double crochets. Alrighty, now once you make it to those 2 post stitches, you see them on the other side, we're going to work back post double crochets in those. So we're going to yarn over and we're just going to go around the post from the back like that. Now the post will be on the front of your hook, so it'll always stay lined up. And we're going to do a back post double crochet around the next one. Now we're going to put 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. Now we're at our cable. We're going to be working back post triple crochets since we're on the back of our work. When we're on the back of our work, we work back post stitches. When we're on the front of our work, we work front posts. So what I like to do is I stick my finger in between so I can have my stitches separated. I have 3 on the front of my finger and 3, well, I guess 3 on the back of my finger right here and 3 on the front. Starting with these 3. And then you go back and work in these 3. So it's kind of in order. These 3 first, and then these 3. I like to try to separate them with my finger a little bit if I can. That way it doesn't get so confusing. So we're going to work a back post triples on these stitches. So I'm going to go into the first one here. Back post triple around. Go around the post from the back. And then do my triple crochet. And then yarn over and back post triple into the next stitch that's in the front here. Yarn over twice and back post triple around that last stitch that's on the front of my finger. And now I'm going to work the 3 that are on the back here of my finger, starting with this very first one, front or back post triple around that first one. And then the next one. And then the last one, back post triple. And now I'm going to put 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. And then back post double around the next 2, and you can see they are the post stitches from the previous row. So back post double around those. One double crochet into the next 3 stitches. And then we're at our next cable, so kind of separate them with your finger, and you want to go for back post triple crochet in the first 3 that's on the front of your finger, 1 2 3, and then a back post triple into the ones on the back of your finger, starting with this one, 1 2 3, back post triple. Oops. And then you want to back post triple around these 3 on the back of your finger, starting with that first one. One double crochet into the next 3 stitches. Back post double crochet into the next 2. One double crochet into the next 3. Now we're at our last cable. We're going to do the same thing. Separate it with your finger. It's easier that way. Back post triple into the 3 on the front, starting with these, and then back post triple into the 3 on the back, starting with this one first. And then the back 3, back post triple. One double crochet into the next 3 stitches. Back post double crochet into the next 2. And now you want to put 1 double crochet in the remaining stitches. So if you're working the large, you'll have 11 stitches. Extra large, you'll have 13 that remain. In the 2X, you will have 15 that remain. You'll still have the same amount of stitches that you've had on the previous rows. Chain 1 and turn. And now it's just a repeat of rows 2 and 3. You can see your cables starting to form. And the more rows you do, the better they'll look. And here's the 2 post stitches in between the cables. So we're just going to keep repeating rows 2 and 3. That's it. So you just double crochet your amount of stitches up until you get to your first 2 post stitches here. Front post double crochet in those. And then you can kind of just see what you do. Just follow along. 3 double crochets here. On this one, remember, we skip these 3. Front post triple around these 3. Back it up. Front post triple around the 3 that we skipped, starting with this one. And just repeat it. Double crochet in those 3. Front post double in those. Double crochet in those 3. Skip these 3. Front post triple. Back it up. Front post triple. Repeat it to the end. Chain 1 and turn. And then on the back, we just work back post double crochets and back post triple crochets. It's pretty much, it's just the same, repeating rows 2 and 3. Remember, you always have the same number of stitches per size that you're doing. I do want to note though, when you're doing the cables, this piece will shrink up to, it'll look a lot smaller. That's fine, it's going to do that. It'll look wavy at the top. That's fine, it's going to do that. You're not doing anything wrong. We will fix the waviness when we do the neck, and we will fix it. The post stitches, we'll get them spread out later on when we sew it together. So you want to repeat rows 2 and 3 until you reach a total of 45 rows. Okay, I have got my front panel done. And it's okay if it looks a little wavy up here in front like mine does. See how it kind of goes. We'll take care of that later. No worrying about that. So I have done a total of 45 rows from top to bottom. Now, if you are making this for someone that you know has a longer waist, you might want to add a few more rows, but please take into the account that I am going to add another 2 inches maybe of ribbing at the bottom of the sweater. So if you take that into the account of the ribbing and you still think it might be too short, you're more than welcome to add as many rows as you need, but please remember to end on an odd number of row. So I ended on 45. So you need to end on an odd number if you do make yours longer than mine. So now we're going to make the neck hole, which I lost some stitches here. Now the neck hole is going to be made the same regardless of what size you're doing. So we'll just go ahead and do the same. So I just finished my 45th row. So I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to turn my work. It's always hard working when I'm working with a large project to get it to where you can see it. So we are going to, remember, regardless of what size that you did, we are going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch until you get to the first cable. Okay? So, well, 1 double crochet in every stitch, but when you get to these 2 posts, you want to go ahead and do the post on that and then work double crochets until you get to your first cable. So I'll go ahead and do mine. Now remember, yours might be different if you're doing the bigger size, and that's fine. I mean, the number here might be larger. But just go ahead and work 1 double crochet in every stitch. Okay, now I'm at these 2 post stitches. I'm going to go ahead and work my front post double crochets around these 2 stitches. So there's 1 and 2, and you do the same. And then you'll have 3 double crochets here left before you get to your first cable. So just go ahead and put 1 double crochet in each of those. Now we're going to skip all these stitches all the way over here to our last cable stitch. So if you count the number of stitches from this cable until your last cable, it'll be 34. Regardless of what size you're doing, it will be 34 stitches. So what we're going to do is make a chain of 34. Okay, I chained 34. So now what we're going to do is we are going to skip, turn my camera a little bit. every stitch. This cable, all these stitches in between this cable, skip it. All these stitches in between our last cable, we're going to skip our last cable. And so go ahead and double crochet into the next stitch after your last big cable stitch here. So go ahead and yarn over and double crochet into it. Just like that. And then you'll have 2 more double crochets. So go ahead and put 1 double crochet in each of those. And that will be at our 2 post stitches here. Go ahead and put a front post double crochet in each of those. So there's 1, 2, and then go ahead and finish out by putting 1 double crochet in each stitch until you get to the end of the row. And we're on row 46 right now. Okay, now we have our neck hole. And don't worry if you feel maybe that it looks too big right now, because we will go around the neck later and fix it up. So now for row 47, I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to turn my work. So we're working on the back side now. I am not going to make the back of my sweater cables. It's going to be straight rows of double crochet. So no more cables right now, not on the main part of the sweater. So I'm just going to go ahead and double crochet into every stitch until I get to my chain space. Remember, we're not doing any cables on the back. The back of the sweater will look different than the front. The back is just going to be plain double crochet rows. The front of the sweater is where all the design is at. So I'm just working one double crochet in every stitch until you get to that chain space. Even when you get to these post stitches, don't work back post stitches in them. Just work a double crochet right on top of them. Just regular double crochet. Make sure you get this last one here. And now what I'm going to do in the chain space is work 1 double crochet in every stitch of the chain. So we chained 34, so you should have 34 stitches. And I do want to note that this last stitch here, it was a last stitch on the previous row, but it's the first stitch here. That chain space gets really small. See it? Make sure you go into that. And it'll be kind of tight. But if you don't go into that, you won't have the correct number of stitches. There we go. So work 1 double crochet in every stitch of the chain. And it should be 34 stitches on the chain. Okay, I've made it, and I have the 34 stitches across my chain there, and remember, it'll be the same for every size. And now I'm just going to continue by putting 1 double crochet in every stitch until I get to the end of the row. Okay, I've made it to the end of row 37. Now you should have the same number of stitches that you started, you had. So I started with 70 is the amount of stitches that I've been having at the end of every row. So that's what I have is 70. If you made the bigger size, you'll have whatever you've been having at the end of every row. So now it's just rows of double crochet for the back of the sweater. So we just chain 1 and we turn our work. I'm going to move my camera here. Sorry about that. So chain 1 and turn your work. And I'm just going to continue working rows of double crochet. So I am on row 38 now. Is that right here? 35. Yeah, row 38 now. And it's just 1 double crochet in every stitch across. It's always going to be 1 double crochet in every stitch across. You'll always have the same number of stitches with what you started with. So my size is 70, so I'm always going to have 70 stitches. And we're just going to keep doing rows of double crochet. Okay, you want to repeat the double crochet row on the back until you reach a total of 91 rows. So that was 45 we did on the front, and then we did another 45 we'll do on the back. That'll be 90 plus that 1 row, which was row 46, that started our neck hole right here. It's kind of by itself, you know what I mean? So there'll be 45 on the front, and then this one was 46, and then do a total of 91, and that'll make a total of 45 on the back. Okay, does that make sense? And if you made yours bigger or smaller, you just do the same number of rows that you had on the front on the back, not counting this one right here for the neck hole. He's kind of a loner. He doesn't really count. So you'll have the same number on the back as you do on the front, plus this 1 row right here. I just want to take a second and show you. Now, do you see how I have my piece laying out the front and the back. Now, your back sides are probably hanging over like mine. See that? See how the back is hanging out farther than the front? That's normal. It will do that. The reason why it does that is because when we did the cables on the front, it kind of shrunk up the top piece. And when we sew it together, it'll stretch it back out to normal. So don't worry about that. If it appears like your back's bigger than the front, it's not really. It's kind of stretched it together, but when we sew it together, it's going to go back to the way it's supposed to be. See, it stretches right back out. So I just wanted to show you that in case you were worried and thought maybe you were doing something wrong, but you're not, because that's how it's going to look when you work with cables. Okay, I'm going to show you what I got going on here. I have all my 91 rows done. And you can see, let me try to move my camera to get it at a better angle. Now, your sides are going, the back side, like I said, it's going to hang over. And even on the bottom, it's going to look shorter, the top. And that's fine. It is the cables that are doing that. But what I like to do is give it a good stretch, pull it down, and on the sides, both sides, give them a good stretch. And that'll stretch out them cable stitches a bit. They're just tight from being wrapped around each other. It's nothing that you did wrong. It's just going to look like that on everybody. That's just the way cables are. So give them a good stretching. And then we'll go ahead and, you might have to give them another stretching later or whatever. But we'll go ahead and mark the armholes off and we'll sew up the sides. So you want to put your work where the cables are on the outside. So go ahead and flip your work where the cables are on the inside. I'm sorry. So where your work is facing the wrong side. So you can see my cables right here are on the outside, and I got a bunch of tails to sew in, but this is the wrong side of my work. And when I flip it up, this is the right side. So that's the way you want it to be. Now I've already gotten one side sewed together, and it's really easy to sew it together and marking off your armholes. Turn my camera down. So for the armholes, what we're going to do, now remember we had that 1 row here by the neck that was just kind of a straggler row. We did the 45 on the front, the 45 on the back, and then we had that 1/2 a row here for the neck. That made it a total of 91. Now what we're going to do, don't count him. What we're going to do, not counting him, count down 17 rows on this piece right here. So don't count that 1 row. Start with the next one and make it number 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And you can go ahead and mark it with, doesn't really matter, little piece of yarn here, so I know. For some reason my hook disappeared and I just had it 2 seconds ago. Weird. But go ahead and mark that 17th row. Now we're going to do the same on the other side. So don't count this row, that one or straggler row, that aren't half a row. Start with the next one and count 17 on the other side. So not counting that one, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, so I got it in my hand. Now we're going to take the 17th row on this side and the 17th row over here. We're just going to tie them together with a piece of yarn. Now you can just tie it in a bow or tie it in a knot or whatever, but we'll untie it later. This is just marking off our armholes. And both armholes in both sides are done the same, so you'll do the same thing to the other side. I'm just going to tie it in a little bow there. Take it out later. So now you had 17 rows on this side. It's 17 rows on this side plus that 1/2 a row, so you should have a total of 35 rows here all around for your sleeve. Okay, counting the one that we have tied together, we count those two here, and all the way around you should have 35. Now to sew it up, now this part's kind of important since the cables do make it look a little smaller on the top piece and larger on the bottom. We got to make sure that we keep our rows lined up, and it's gonna be easy to make it where they're, you know, because if you lay it out straight, you can obviously see if I sewed it together like that, it's not going to work. You've got to keep it stretched, and you got to make sure all your rows lined up. Now if it's easier, you can pin it down if you want. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use a piece of yarn and a yarn needle, and I'm going to sew my sides up that way. So that's the easiest way for me to do it. So get my yarn needle ready. Now we don't want to sew the rows together that we have tied off. We start with the next 2 rows, and it's really super important that you keep your rows lined up. This row has to be lined up with the row on this side. They have to be the exact same. So every row, I just do it carefully, one at a time, so I can see that this one double crochet is lined up with this double crochet, and I'm going to put them together and hold it so it doesn't shift around, and I'm going to sew them together. Try not to get that in there, and I'm going to sew it kind of like back and forth, not over. And you're just doing it, trying to sew it together as neatly as possible. Now I'm going directly to the next row, and then I flip it over and I look for the next row. So right here and here. This part, you just take your time sewing it together to make sure your rows match up. Because if they don't, there's really nothing more aggravating than sewing it all together, and then you get down to the bottom and it's not, your rows didn't match up, and you have one side that's like an inch longer than the other. And if you're using this yarn like me, this yarn is not the easiest to take out. So that's why I take my time doing this part to make sure everything matches up. Now I'm going to go to my next row here, and I'm going to flip it over, and here's my next row here. So I'm going to hold these two together just like that, and then they're all lined up, and I'm going to sew them together. And this is just how I sew up the sides. I just can't stress it enough how important it is to make sure you take your time and keep these rows lined up, especially since we're working with cables and the top appears to be shrunken in more than the bottom. It just won't work out if all the rows are lined up. So here's the next one right here and the next one on the back. So I'm going to put them together and pinch it so I know I'm not going to sew anywhere else but those 2 rows together. That's how I do it. That's how I know that I'm keeping my rows straight. I always pinch right underneath them. That way I know that this is where my next set of rows start and I don't need to sew beyond that. So I'll line them up again. I look every time to make sure, because when the cable stitch, the side that has the cable stitches, the rows will appear a little smaller because they've been shrunken. So just don't want to lose your spot. Sorry for talking so much. I just wanted to make sure you guys get the rows lined up just right, because I don't want you to have to get to the bottom and have to redo it. That's no fun. It's happened to me. It's not enjoyable. Sometimes you kind of got to look to make sure you're, there we go, getting it just right. Oh. So this is what I'm going to do all the way down. And then what you want to do is mark off on the other side. You just want to do the same thing. Mark off the armholes the exact same and then sew it up the exact same. And then what we'll do, I'll meet back up with you after that. And then we will flip it right side out and check out our seam and kind of work the seam out a little bit, and then we'll get started on what we have to do next. There we go. So I'm just going to continue all the way down. Okay, I made it all the way to the bottom, and luckily my rows lined up. I just kept it slow though, and went ahead and just went back up with my tail and hit it a little bit. You can clip that off. Now I already got my other side done, so I'm gonna flip my work right side out now without knocking the camera over, preferably. Okay, so now what I mean by working the seams out, you can see your seam here. This is what your seam will look like now on the right side. When I say work the seams out, I always kind of just stick my hand there, use my finger, and I go up along the seam, and it just kind of pushes out just a bit so it's not so stuck in. But that's kind of what I do when I say, what I mean when I say work the seams out. I don't even know if anybody else does that. That's probably some kind of weird Bagoday crochet thing, but that's what I do. So, and you want to go ahead and do that to both sides like that. Now we'll flip it over and we'll take a look at it now. See how it looks. Okay, and again I'm going to give my top layer a good stretch, and my bottom another little bit of a stretch. Those cables just need to work themselves out, and they will relax over time, but we'll get her fixed up here. Now let's work around the bottom. So we got, it doesn't matter if these little things that were holding your sleeves came out. I mean, as long as, you know, it's all tied off where you sewed it together, that's fine, because we're going to take them out anyways later. But let's work around the bottom now. So go ahead and grab your yarn and your hook, which I found mine on the floor. Lost it for a minute. Now I'm going to start, I'm going to start along the seam. But when you look at your stitches here, don't go into the seam right here. See, kind of like right here is your seam. Don't work into that. Just work into the stitches next to it. So I'm going to start on the one right behind it. You don't have to start there. That's just where I'm going to start. Now I'm going to chain one. I'm going to go back into that same stitch and I'm going to work a single crochet. Now this is going to be the same regardless of what size that you do. So I'm going to do 8 single crochets in a row, and then I'm going to do a single crochet decrease. I'm just going to make the bottom of the sweater just a little bit pulled in a little bit at the bottom. So there's my first single crochet. Now like I said, don't go into this where we seamed it together. Just jump right over here to the next stitch and single crochet, so that's 2. I want to do 8 in a row. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now I'm going to single crochet decrease over the next 2. The single crochet decrease is worked over 2 stitches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the next stitch and draw up a loop. And then I'm going to go into the next one after that and draw up a loop. And you'll have 3 loops that remain on your hook. Yarn over and go through all 3. So that took 2 stitches and it made it into 1. So that's the single crochet decrease. And now we're just going to kind of repeat that pattern all the way around. So we're going to do 8 single crochets in a row. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 8. Now I'm going to do a single crochet decrease over the next 2. So I'm going to go into the next one and draw up a loop. And then to the next one after that, draw up a loop, yarn over, and go through all 3 loops. Again, I'm going to repeat it. Single crochet in the next 8. And single crochet decrease over the next 2. And I'm going to repeat this pattern all the way around until I get back to the beginning. Now when you get over here to the other seam, just do the same thing you did. Just work in the stitches right beside the seam. Don't try to go into the seam part. And honestly, this part is just kind of the amount of stitches that you have down here. It's not really gonna matter as long as when you get done you have an even number of stitches. That's all that really matters. So it doesn't have to be perfect here. If you don't get it exactly like mine, it's not a big deal. It's not going to turn out any different. So just go ahead and repeat this pattern of 8 single crochets in a row and then a single crochet decrease until you get back to your starting point. Okay, I have made it all the way around, and I'm not going to even count my stitches because the stitch count doesn't really matter down here because yours might be different than mine, especially going around the seam there. And if you're making a different size, it's okay. As long as you just want to make sure that you have an even number of stitches when you make it back around, an even number. So I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into my first single crochet. And now I'm going to work a chain of 3. And that chain 3 is going to count as a double crochet. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and I'm just going to work 1 double crochet in every single stitch all the way around back to the beginning. Just like this. So we're not decreasing anymore. 1 double in every stitch all the way around your entire piece until you make it back to your starting point. Okay, I've made it all the way around. I apologize if it was a little dark before. I didn't have this top light on, so hopefully it's brighter now. I didn't even realize it. So I've made it all the way around, and now I'm just going to end with a slip stitch into my top of my beginning chain 3. Now I'm going to work a little bit of ribbing. You need to make sure that you still have your even number of stitches. So now I'm going to chain 3, and this time that chain 3 is going to count as a back post double crochet. And now I'm going to work a front post double crochet around the next stitch. So I'm going to yarn over, and instead of working the double crochet in the top of the stitch, I'm going to work it around the post. So I'm just going to go around like that, and then I kind of fold my piece in half, and then I just do a double crochet. Now the next stitch I'm going to work a back post double crochet. So I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to go around the posted stitch from the back. So I take my hook from behind the stitch like that and then back around the other side. Now the post is on the back of my hook. Then I go ahead and do my double crochet. And I'm just going to repeat that. Front post double crochet, back post double crochet, repeat all the way around. So again, I'm going to go ahead and do a front post double crochet in the next stitch. And then a back post double crochet. Front post double crochet. And then a back post double crochet. And you'll be able to see some ribbing starting to take place. You'll see it a little better once we get another row on it, but you can see it right there. So I'm just going to repeat this pattern all the way around. Front post double crochet, and then a back post double crochet, front post double, and then a back post double. And I'm going to do this all the way around until I get back right here to my starting point. Okay, I've made it around with my back post double crochet, front post double crochet, back post double crochet, repeat. Now your last stitch should have been a front post double crochet, and then you want to go ahead and end with the slip stitch into your beginning chain 3. And now I'm going to repeat that row again. The exact same thing we just did. So I'm going to chain 3 and I'm going to work a front post double crochet around the first stitch, and you can see it's the post from the previous row. And then I'm going to work a back post double crochet around the next stitch, and then a front post. So what we're doing is just keeping our posts lined up, and a back post, front post, and a back post. And I'm just going to repeat this all the way around. It's the same exact thing we just did on the previous row or previous round. Front post double crochet, back post double crochet. And now you can see the ribbing a little bit better now. You got another row on it. So I'm just going to repeat this all the way around till I get back to my starting point. Okay, I have made it all the way around again. And I went ahead and ended with the slip stitch into my beginning chain 3. Now I don't think I'm going to do any more rows of ribbing. I guess it's not quite the 2 inches that I said earlier. But if you want to do another row or 2 of ribbing to make yours thicker, by all means go right ahead. I mean, it's your sweater. If you want thicker ribbing at the bottom, that's up to you. But once you finish, if you want to do it longer, once you get it as long as you want, but I'm going to go ahead and stop right here. I'm going to go around it with a row of single crochet just to clean up this edge down here. So I went ahead and slip stitched there into my beginning chain 3. Now I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to go back into that same stitch and single crochet. And now I'm going to work 1 single crochet into the top of every stitch all the way around. So no more post stitches. This is going to be one final row to clean up this bottom edge here. Oops. Just like that. So that gives it a nice clean ending row there. So I'm going to do that single crochet in every stitch all the way around till I get right back to here to my beginning. Alrighty, I made it all the way around with my round of single crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and end with the slip stitch into my first single crochet, not the chain 1 that we did, but the first single crochet. And I'm going to tie this off. And now I'm going to hide that tail. So I'm going to go ahead and hide that tail, and then when we get done with that, we'll go ahead and work around the neck next. Alright, let's see what we can do with this neck. Okay, if you remember, we skipped, no matter what size it was, we skipped the same amount of stitches. We skipped 34 on this side and 34. It was 34 here, and then we chained 34. So there's 34 on each side. But also we have this one single row here that is double crochet, so it's kind of on the side. So what we're going to do there is we're going to single crochet that together. So I'll show you where we're going to start. You see right here is the double crochet. See how this stitch goes into that? Start right there into that spot. And that's where we're going to start our yarn. So we're going to chain one. Now we're going to go right back into that same spot and draw up a loop, but don't go over and single crochet yet. Now we're going to jump over to the other part of the double crochet right here, how it hooks to that stitch, and go into that space and draw up a loop. And then we're going to yarn over and go through all 3 loops. There we go. We single crocheted that double crochet to get together. So now I'm going to work around, and I'm going to put 1 single crochet in every stitch of the collar. And when we get back around over to the other side, we're going to have to single crochet that double crochet together like we did over here. So I'm just going to work 1 single crochet in every stitch, and I will meet you over there on the other side where that double crochet is, and we'll work on it together. Okay, I've made it over here to that double crochet. Now remember, we're going to work into this stitch that double crochet is attached to, and over here in this stitch right here that it's attached to, and we're going to single crochet it together. So go into this spot and draw up a loop, and then all the way over here to this spot. Draw up a loop, yarn over, and go through all 3 loops. And now I'm going to continue working 1 single crochet in every stitch until I get back to where I started. Just like that. Alright, I have made it back to the beginning, and now you should have a total of 70 stitches, because we had the 34 on this side and the 34 on the back side, which is 68. And then we made this double crochet one, and the other double crochet one, which would make a total of 70 stitches. So that's what you need to have right now. So now we're going to go ahead and end by slip stitching into our first single crochet, just like that. Okay, now I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to go back into that same stitch, and I'm going to work a double crochet, and I want to work a double crochet into the next 2 stitches. So that would be 3 double crochets in a row, like that. And now I'm going to work a half double crochet into the next 3 stitches, half doubles. So 1, 2, 3, just like that. And now I'm going to work a single crochet into the next 24 stitches. Okay, I did my single crochet over those 24 stitches, and now I'm going to put a half double crochet into the next 3 half doubles. There's 1, 2, and 3. And now I'm going to put a double crochet over the next 5. Double crochet in the next 5. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now I'm going to do a half double crochet over the next 3, half double over the next 3, 1, 2, 3, and now I'm going to do a single crochet over the next 24 again. Single crochet over the next 24 stitches. Okay, I've done my single crochet in my 24 stitches. I just have 5 stitches left. I'm going to go ahead and do a half double crochet in the next 3, and then double into the next 2. And you want to end with the slip stitch into your first double crochet. You still should have your 70 stitches that we started out with. Okay, now what I'm going to do is chain 1. Now I want to do a row of decreases. So I want to do 5 single crochets in a row, and then I'll do a single crochet decrease. So I'm going to go back into the very first stitch, and that's going to count as number 1. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and now I'm going to decrease over the next 2 stitches. So I'm going to go into the next one and draw up a loop, and then go into the next one after that, draw up a loop, yarn over, and go through all 3 loops. And I'm going to repeat that all the way around. So I'm going to do a single crochet again into the next 5 stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then decrease over the next 2. Yarn over, or go into the next stitch, draw up a loop, and the next one, draw up a loop, and yarn over and go through all 3. Again, 1 single crochet into the next 5. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and single crochet decrease over the next 2. So I'm going to repeat this pattern all the way around until I get all the way back around here to my starting point. Okay, I've made it all the way around. Now your last stitch should have been a decrease, and you should have 60 stitches now. So I'm going to go ahead and end with a slip stitch into my first single crochet. Now I'm just going to go around one time with a row of single crochet. So I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to go back into that same stitch and single crochet, and I'm going to work 1 single crochet in every stitch around. So no more decreasing, just 1 single in every stitch until we get back to the beginning. Alright, I made it all the way around back to the beginning, and just go ahead and end with the slip stitch into your first single crochet, and you should have 60 stitches still. And then we'll go ahead and clip that yarn, and then we can hide this tail. Alright, let's get going on those sleeves. I already got one sleeve done. Now remember, both sleeves are made the exact same. So, it is pretty big now, but here's one sleeve done. A little ribbing at the bottom. So we'll go ahead and I'll show you how to do them. So you want to get your piece here where we tied it off. you should have 35 rows there, counting the 35 rows that aren't sewed together, because we did the 17 on this side, 17 on this side, and then we had that 1/2 row, so 35 rows. So what we're going to do now, this part, you can take out the markers if you haven't already. They're just, I'll take mine out later. Mine's decided to not for some reason. Okay. Now this part's important, that what we do here. We need to make sure that we get 2 single crochets worked in every one of these double crochets that are on the side. So 2 single crochets in each one of these rows. It's important that we have that that many stitches. So you want to go ahead and start your yarn in your first row here. I kind of just work it through the double crochet. And chain 1. And I'm going to go back into that same stitch and single crochet. Don't mind this. That's where I tied it together and it's knotted up, so I'll have to cut it off in a minute. And now I'm going to do another single crochet through that same double crochet. Just the best that I can. Get it worked right through there. Now I'm going to jump to the next row. You see this double crochet here? I need to work 2 single crochets through it somewhere. Now they don't have to be perfectly spaced, but you just need to make sure that you get 2 single crochets through every double crochet at the end of the row. So here's my next one. And I kind of just dig in there. My next one. Now I'm going to jump to my next row here, right here, and just kind of somewhere work 2 single crochets through that double crochet. And then my next row here, just wherever you can get them, 2 single crochets through this double crochet. And I'm going to repeat this pattern all the way around. Remember, it's very important that you get 2 single crochets to every double, because we need to have 70 stitches, 70 single crochets when we make it back around. And if you get 2 single crochets to each of the 35 rows around, we'll have our 70 stitches. So just go ahead and keep working around, working 2 singles at the end of every row, that double crochet at the end of every row, 2 singles in each one of those. And I'll meet you back around when we get back around to the beginning. Okay, I have made it back around and I have my 70 stitches, and remember, it's the same regardless of what size you're doing. Now I want to go ahead and end with the slip stitch into my first single crochet, and that will end row 1 of the sleeves, 70 stitches. Round 1 of the sleeves. Guess it doesn't matter. Round 2, we're going to chain 1. Now we're going to work 2 double crochet decreases. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to go into that very first stitch that we slip stitched into and draw up a loop. I'm going to yarn over and go through the first 2 loops on my hook. Then I'm going to yarn over and go into the next stitch and drop a loop. And I'm going to yarn over and go through the first 2 loops on my hook. I'll have 3 loops that remain. I'm going to yarn over and go through all 3. That took 2 stitches and made it into 1. Now I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to go into the next stitch and drop a loop. Yarn over and go through the first 2 loops on my hook. Yarn over and go into the next stitch, drop a loop. Yarn over and go through the first 2, and then yarn over and go through the remaining 3. Now I'm just going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch around until I get to my last 4 stitches. So it's just double crochets right now. one in every stitch until I get to my last 4. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you when I get to my last 4 stitches on round 2. Okay, I've come to the end of round 2 and I have my 4 stitches that remain. I'm going to work 2 double crochet decreases over the 4 stitches. So I'm going to yarn over and go into the next stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2, yarn over and go into the next stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2, yarn over, go through all 3. Now I'm going to do that again over the last 2 stitches. That. Go ahead and end round 2 by slip stitching into your first double crochet decrease, and now you'll have a total of 66 stitches. Round 3, we are going to do a double crochet decrease over the first 2 stitches. So we're going to start by chaining 1, yarn over, go into that very first stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2, yarn over and go into the next stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, and yarn over and go through all 3. Now we're going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch until we get to our last 2 stitches of the row. So 1 double in every stitch on round 3 until we get to our last 2 stitches, and I'll meet back up with you whenever I reach that point. Alright, I've come to the end of round 3 and I've made it to my last 2 stitches here, and you can see they are double crochet decreases from the previous round. What I'm going to do is a double crochet decrease over the last 2 stitches. So go ahead and double crochet decrease over these last 2. Like that, and I'm going to go in by slip stitching into my first double crochet decrease, and now at the end of round 3 you should have a total of 64 stitches. Okay, round 4, I am going to chain 1 and I'm going to work 14 double crochets in a row. So I'm going to make my first one to go right back here into this very first stitch that we slip stitched into. So there's 1. We need 14. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alrighty, I got 14 in a row. Now I'm going to do a double crochet decrease over the next 2. Like that, and that's the repeat now for round 4. It's 1 double crochet into the next 14 stitches and then a double crochet decrease over the next 2. So you just work 1 double into the next 14 again, so I got my 14 double crochets in a row again. Now I'm going to decrease again over the next 2. And I'm just going to repeat this pattern all the way around until I get back to the beginning. Okay, I've made it to the end of round 4. Now your last stitch should have been a decrease, and you want to go ahead and end by slip stitching into your first double crochet, and now you should have a total of 60 stitches to end of round 4. Now round 5, we are going to chain 1 and we're just going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch. Starting with this very first one, you go back into the very same stitch. And I'm going to work 1 double in every stitch all the way around. So we're not going to decrease on round 5. So I'm going to continue working 1 double crochet in every stitch until I get back to my starting point. Alright, I've made it to the end of round 5, and I still should have my 60 stitches. Go ahead and end by slip stitching into your first double crochet. Like that. And now round 6, we are going to do 8 double crochets in a row, and then we're going to do a double crochet decrease. So go ahead and chain 1. First double crochet always goes right back into that very first stitch. Then we want to do 8 in a row, so that's 1, 2, 3. Alright, there's 8 double crochets in a row, and then double crochet decrease over the next 2. Just like that. And that's the pattern we're going to repeat for round 6. 1 double crochet into the next 8 stitches, and then double crochet decrease. 1 double crochet into the next 8, and double crochet decrease, and go ahead and repeat that pattern until you get back over here to the starting point. Okay, I'm coming to the end of round 6. You should have ended in a decrease, and you should have a total of 54 stitches now. Go ahead and end by slip stitching into your first double crochet. Round 7 is going to be chain 1, and we're going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch. Starting with that very first stitch. Just go ahead and for round 7, work 1 double in every stitch, so no decreasing on round 7. One double in every stitch until you make it back to your starting point. Alright, I've made it to the end of round 7. I still should have 54 stitches. Go ahead and end with the slip stitch into your first double crochet. And then round 8, we're going to chain 1. And now we're going to put 1 double crochet into the first 7 stitches. And then we'll do our double crochet decrease. So there's 1, 2, 7, and then we're going to do a double crochet decrease over the next 2 stitches. Like that, and that's a pattern we're going to repeat for round 8. 1 double crochet into the next 7 stitches again, and then a double crochet decrease. 1 double crochet in the next 7, and then a double crochet decrease all the way around until you get back to the beginning. Alright, I've made it to the end of round 8. You should have 48 stitches now, and you should have ended in a decrease. Go ahead and end with the slip stitch into your first double crochet. Then we're going to chain 1. Now rounds 9 and 10 are both the exact same thing. It's just 1 double crochet in every stitch around. So I'm working on round 9, putting 1 double crochet in every stitch. I'll have 48 stitches at the end of the round. And then I'm going to do the same thing for round 10. 48 stitches at the end of round 10. So I'm going to go ahead and work, and I'll meet back up with you whenever I've finished round 10. Remember, 9 and 10 are just 1 double crochet in every stitch. Alright, I have made it to the end of round 10, and I still have my 48 stitches, so I'm going to go ahead and end with a slip stitch into my first double crochet. Now we'll start around 11. Now around 11 is chain 1, and it's 1 double crochet into the first 6 stitches, and then it's a double crochet decrease over the next 2. So start with the first one like always. We want to do 6 in a row. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oops, 5, 6, and then double crochet decrease over the next 2. Just like that. And that's a pattern we're going to repeat now for round 11. 1 double crochet into the next 6, and then double crochet decrease. 1 double crochet into the next 6, and double crochet decrease all the way around until you get back to the beginning. Okay, I've made it to the end of round 11. You should have ended in a decrease, and you should have 42 stitches now. Go ahead and slip stitch into your first double crochet, chain 1. Now what we're going to do rounds 12, 13, 14, and 15. So 12 through 15 is just going to be 1 double crochet in every stitch. So we're on round 12 right now, working 1 double in every stitch. We'll have 42 stitches at the end of each round. So I'm going to go ahead and keep working. Rounds 12, 13, 14, and 15. 1 double crochet in every stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and finish, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of round 15. Remember, you'll still have 42 stitches at the end of every round. Alright, I've made it to the end of round 15. I still got my 42 stitches. I'm going to go ahead and end with the slip stitch into my first double crochet. Round 16, I'm going to start by chaining 1. And I'm going to do 1 double crochet into the first 5 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3. Oops. Keep dropping my stitches. That's a sign I've been working on the sweater for too long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to do a double crochet decrease over the next 2. Just like that. And that's a repeat now for round 16. 1 double crochet into the next 5, and then a double crochet decrease over the next 2. And we're just going to repeat that pattern all the way around until we get back to the beginning. Alright, I made it to the end of round 16. Should have ended in a decrease. And now we have 36 stitches. Slip stitch into your first double crochet. Now we're going to chain 1. Now rounds 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So round 17 through 22 are all 1 double crochet in every stitch. So I'm just going to get started on that. I'm on round 17 now. I'm just going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch, round 17 through 22, and you'll always have 36 stitches at the end of every round. So I'm going to finish this up, and I will meet you at the end of round 22. Remember, you'll still have your 36 stitches at the end of round 22. 17 through 22. Alright, I have made it to the end of round 22. I have my 36 stitches. Sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and end with a slip stitch into my first double crochet. Now we're going to do for round 23, chain 1, 1 double crochet into the first 4 stitches, and then a double crochet decrease. So double in the first 4. decrease over the next 2. And that is the repeat now for round 23. 1 double crochet into the next 4 stitches again, and then a double crochet decrease. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat this pattern all the way around until I get back to my starting point. All right, I've made it to the end of round 23, and you should have ended in a decrease, and you should have 30 stitches now. Go ahead and slip stitch into your first double crochet, chain 1. So rounds, we're just going to do double crochet now, 1 double crochet in every stitch for rounds 24 through 28. So 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28 are all 1 double crochet in every stitch, and you will have 30 stitches at the end of every round. So I'm going to get started around round 24 now, and I'm going to keep going, putting 1 double crochet in every stitch until I finish out round 28. And remember, you'll have 30 stitches still at the end of round 28. Okay, I've made it to the end of round 28, and I still have my 30 stitches, so I'm going ahead in with the slip stitch in my first double. Now, if you want to make your sleeves a bit longer, this is the time to do it. You can add another few rows if you don't think that yours is long enough. If you want to make them shorter, you actually could just take off a couple. You didn't have to do quite as many rows. But if you want to do it like me, we're going to go ahead and decrease now. But longer, do a few more rows or however many you need, and then you do this decrease right here. But I'm on round 29. So I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to put 1 double crochet into the first 4 stitches. And then I'm going to a double crochet decrease over the next 2. And that's a repeat now for round 29. 1 double into the next 4. Double crochet decrease over the next 2. So just go ahead and repeat that pattern until you get back to the beginning. All right, I've made it to the end of round 29. Your last stitch should have been a decrease. Go ahead and end with the slip stitch in your first double. You should have 25 stitches now. Round 30 is chain 1, and it's 1 double crochet in every stitch all the way around until you get back to the beginning. Okay, I've made it to the end of round 30. I still have 25 stitches in with a slip stitch into my first double crochet, and I'm gonna for round 31 I'm gonna repeat that again. So 31 is just another round of 1 double crochet in every stitch. So rounds 30 and 31 were just 1 double crochet in every stitch. So I'm on 31 right now. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat that all the way around until I get back to the beginning. Okay, I'm coming to the end of round 31. Now I have my 25 stitches, but what I'm going to do is actually put 1 extra stitch into the last one to make 26 stitches. Now it's not really going to make no difference, but our next rounds are going to be ribbing, and I need to have an even number of rows. So you did round 31, you had your normal 25 stitches. Just go ahead and add 1 extra one to that last stitch. No one's even going to know. Slip stitch into your beginning double crochet, and now you'll have 26 stitches. It's not enough to make any difference. It's not going to make the sleeve any wider. It's just going to make the ribbing work. So now rows 32 and 33 are the same thing. They're the ribbing rows. So we're going to chain 3, which is going to count as a back post double crochet. So I'm going to put a front post double crochet around the next stitch. And the next one is going to be a back post double crochet. And the next one will be a front post. So this is just like what we did at the bottom of the sweater. back post double crochet, and front post double, back post double, and front post double. And we're going to go ahead and repeat this all the way around until we get back to the beginning. Okay, I made it to the end of round 32. Go ahead, my last stitch was a front post double crochet. Go ahead and end with a slip stitch into that beginning chain 3. We had our 26 stitches. Round 33 is the same thing. Chain 3, and then we're going to work a front post double crochet, and then a back post double crochet. Front post double, and back post. And we want to go ahead and repeat this all the way around until we get back to the beginning. Just like that. All right, made it to the end of round 33. Last stitch was a front post double crochet, and with the slip stitch into that beginning chain 3. One more round. Round 34 is just going to be a round of single crochets. So I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to go back into that same stitch and single crochet, and then make sure you get this next one because it looks, see how tight that looks, but you got to get right in there. And it's just one single crochet in the top of every stitch all the way around, just to clean up that last row of the sleeve. Give it a little bit of a neater appearance. You could do more rows of ribbing if you wanted, you know, that's up to you. It's your sweater. But I just did that couple rows. Now I'm finishing with this round of single crochet. Twist my sweater around. I'll go ahead and finish this round out. Now once you make it back to the beginning, you should have 26 stitches. Go ahead and end with a slip stitch into your first single crochet. Not that chain 1 we did, but that first single. And then you can tie this off, clip your yarn off, and hide your tails. And then you want to do this other sleeve the exact same way. Exactly. All right, once you get your other sleeve done, we did it. That's it. That's all there is to it. And I hope you were able to follow along okay with me. Now, if you make this or anything else, I'd love to see a picture of it. You can post a picture on my Facebook page. There's links to that below in the description box. I'm super excited. I think it turned out really good, and I'd really love to see yours if you make it. Remember, you can always post those on my Facebook page. Also, special thanks again to Lion Brand for providing that yarn. Also, don't forget to check out lionbrand.com and all their free patterns they have on there. They got some really cool stuff. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that like button. And until next time, have a good day.